Tonight, we are steps from Juno Beach, where a very small group of Canadian veterans are now here to mark the 80th anniversary of D-Day.
I have a couple of friends buried there, so I'll be looking at them for the last time.
The events have already begun, commemorating the sacrifice and the scars from one of the most pivotal days of the Second World War.
Bonjour. Vous êtes Canadien? Oui.
And it was Canadians who liberated the first house in France that fateful June day. It's still standing with an incredible story to tell. We'll take you inside.
Here in Canada, fallout to those shocking allegations that parliamentarians conspired with foreign governments.
It could be considered treason.
But the government won't commit to naming names.
Do you think Canadians have a right to know who those MPs are?
Their flight was delayed for a day, but instead of getting cash, a BC couple got served with court documents.
So it's really unfortunate. There's going to be a lot more of these.
Why Air Canada is fighting compensation in court.
From CBC News, this is The National with Ian Hannah-Mansing and Chief Correspondent Adrian Arsenault, near Juno Beach, France.
Thank you for joining us. We're in Normandy tonight. Just behind me, the dunes of Juno Beach, where on Thursday, thousands will mark a solemn anniversary, 80 years since D-Day, the beginning of the end of the Second World War. So it was on June 6, 1944, that 150,000 Allied troops began the invasion of Normandy, and Canada played a vital role. 14,000 Canadian soldiers stormed the beach, charging right into machine gun fire and through the German defenses. 359 Canadians lost their lives that day. Tonight, and over the next few days, we'll be hearing from some of Canada's treasured surviving veterans and remembering those who did not make it home. This year's anniversary will be unlike many before it. With so few veterans left, it's likely the last time they will come here to Juno Beach. We'll be right there with them. That coverage coming up a little bit later. But for now, let's head to Ian in Vancouver with the day's other stories. Ian?
Thanks, Adrian. Growing fallout tonight over those stunning allegations of foreign interference in Canadian politics. The parliamentary report released yesterday cites unethical, potentially illegal behavior from unnamed parliamentarians alleged to have shared sensitive information with foreign governments. The big question now, who is the report referring to? But as Ashley Burke explains, the government isn't committing to reveal names.
Did a member of parliament help a foreign state undermine Canadian democracy? It's a bombshell allegation raising serious questions about who's involved and what went down.
The allegations contained in the report are extremely serious.
That's a concern for all of us, regardless of caucus, regardless of party.
The accusations come from a committee of MPs and senators that saw troubling intelligence that some parliamentarians are semi-witting or witting participants in the efforts of foreign states to interfere in our politics, including in one case, providing information learned in confidence to a known intelligence officer of a foreign state. The intelligence community is stunned.
If anything classified was provided to a foreign state, it could be considered treason.
Opposition parties want action.
If we came to the conclusion that one member of my caucus would have been involved in such activities, he could not remain part of the caucus. That's clear.
If there's any evidence that someone knowingly worked with a foreign government to influence our democracy, they should no longer be a member of parliament.
But the government isn't naming names.
Do you think Canadians have a right to know who those MPs are?
I think Canadians need to know that the national security and intelligence agencies are doing the important work that they do. I think Canadians understand that this work is done with a certain requirement of confidentiality and secrecy to protect sources.
And that confidentiality could remain unless the RCMP investigates and lays charges.
You can't simply go out and provide the names of those people to the press and say these people are doing something improper. If you're going to allege something like that, you either have to put forward proof and prosecute somebody, or shut up.
So Ashley, these are serious allegations. Will anyone be held accountable?
Well, Ian, that's the big question right now. The Deputy Prime Minister said that Liberal caucus will follow up internally, but didn't give details or commit to kicking anyone out if the intelligence is true and they're still in office. The report says that some of the conduct could be illegal, but that it's unlikely to lead to criminal charges. Now, there is a proposed legislative tool in the pipeline that could make it a criminal offense punishable to up to life in prison for anyone knowingly helping a foreign state meddle in Canada, but we don't know if that would apply to past allegations like these.
Ashley Burke reporting from Ottawa. Canada's Auditor General is slamming the federal government for the way it awards contracts, often disregarding the rules. As Olivia Stefanovich explains, the report shows one consulting company was given more than $200 million worth of work with little competition.
At least one contract.
Canada's Auditor General sounding the alarm over how the federal government awards contracts.
Policies exist to ensure fairness and transparency and value for Canadians, but they only work if they are followed.
In the case of one particular consulting firm, Karen Hogan says those rules were routinely broken.
We also found that each organization's own practices often did not demonstrate value for money.
Between 2011 and 2023, Hogan's audit found 97 contracts awarded to McKinsey & Company, worth more than $200 million, covering a broad range of services, from IT support to health and welfare training, most handed out in a non-competitive process. In fact, Hogan says several of the contracts appear to have been designed to favor the New York-based global management firm.
Will the Prime Minister commit here and now no more money for McKinsey?
Seizing on the auditor's scathing findings, the opposition is demanding action.
When will they start respecting our public service and stop forking over money to rich consultants?
If it all sounds familiar, that's because the government just came under fire for outsourcing.
Speed to procure.
Earlier this year, Hogan concluded the final cost for the controversial ArriveCan app, initially awarded to GC Strategies, impossible to determine due to poor record keeping.
We're committed to protecting the integrity of procurement and expect public servants and all departments to operate at the highest standard and prioritize value for money for Canadians.
In a statement to CBC News, McKinsey says it met the government's needs and delivered value for money. But the Auditor General doesn't see it that way, and she's reminding the public service to follow its own procurement rules. Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News, Ottawa.
Online streaming services operating in Canada, like Netflix and Spotify, will now have to pay 5% of their Canadian revenue to help fund domestic broadcasting.
This is money that will go back into Canadian creation, whether it's music, whether it's a television series or movies, that will most likely go back on their platforms.
Canada's telecoms regulator, the CRTC, is targeting foreign-owned streaming giants to boost local, Indigenous, and French-language broadcasting. Officials say it could raise roughly $200 million each year. In a major policy shift, U.S. President Joe Biden is bringing in strict new measures to restrict migrant crossings at the southern border. The executive order blocks asylum claims when crossings surge. Paul Hunter explains the politics behind the move.
Long deemed a crisis at the U.S.-Mexico border, the sheer number of migrants crossing into America illegally seeking asylum has for years overwhelmed the country's capacity to deal with them. And so many migrants then sent throughout the U.S. after crossing in, waiting sometimes years on word whether they can stay. This is Denver in March. Now Joe Biden with a move at once aimed at easing the border crisis and boosting his chances for re-election.
I've come here today to do what the Republicans in Congress refuse to do. Take the necessary steps to secure our border.
An executive order specifically targeting asylum seekers who cross in illegally to kick in only when those numbers spike to 2,500 illegal crossings per day. The U.S. will then turn back most migrants who cross that way. It's a dramatic change and near reversal in approach for Biden, who once criticized former President Donald Trump for policies with a similar effect. Biden careful to now highlight their differences.
I'll never separate children from their families at the border. I will not ban people from this country because of their religious beliefs.
But Biden's taken heat for inaction at the border, and it's become a major issue in the looming presidential election. Indeed, in announcing the order, Biden underlined it comes only after proposed legislation aimed at easing the crisis without turning back migrants was blocked by Republicans.
Why? Because Donald Trump told them to. He told the Republicans that he didn't want to fix the issue, he wanted to use it to attack me. That's what he wanted to do. It was a cynical and an extremely cynical political move.
Even now, Republicans were quick to label the executive order as pandering for votes, framing Biden's action as an about-face due simply to politics.
This is a conversion based on the proximity of the next election and sinking poll numbers.
And Paul Biden is getting heat on this from Democrats as well.
Yeah, not all Democrats are happy about blocking so many asylum seekers, Ian. One lawmaker today saying it's not the right direction on this, that the real answer is modernizing the whole U.S. immigration system, something that has stymied multiple presidents. As well, significantly, the American Civil Liberties Union calls Biden's move illegal and says it'll sue to reverse it. Nonetheless, the executive order comes into effect at midnight.
Paul Hunter in Washington. The family of a man killed in a mass shooting in Toronto is speaking out. 61-year-old Delroy George Parks was part of a group gathered for a soccer game on Sunday when two people opened fire. He was killed. 4 more were injured. His wife says he was an innocent man who loved his family and is urging the killers to come forward.
You're damn right I want justice. Our world was taken from us for no reason. No reason. So yeah, I want justice. You don't know what you've done to us. You have no idea what you've done to us and what you're putting us through.
Police say they have no motive and couldn't say whether the victims were targeted. Air Canada is taking a BC couple to court. The airline is fighting in order to pay compensation for a delayed flight, and experts say this is only the beginning. Sophia Harris explains why.
Following a 24-hour flight delay to Costa Rica, Andrew and Anna Ditchkowski were thrilled when a Canadian Transportation Agency officer determined Air Canada was to blame and must pay the couple $2,000 compensation.
We were kind of happy that the system works. Yeah.
But instead of getting their cash, Air Canada is taking the couple to court to try to overturn the officer's ruling.
We're numb. Leave us little folks alone. Like we really don't want to be in this business of courts. Something is really wrong, in the system.
Airlines have always had the right to appeal CTA decisions on air passenger complaints. However, it's been rare.
Any appeal the airlines wanted to bring up would have to allege an error of law, which is a big high standard to meet.
But now that's changed. The CTA adopted new rules late last year to streamline the complaints process. One result, airlines can now legally challenge a broader range of CTA decisions. So some experts worry carriers may try to clog the courts with cases.
It's really unfortunate. There's going to be a lot more of these, I think, to try to further gum up the process and make the complaints process look bad.
Air Canada refutes the prediction. In an email to CBC News, it said legal challenges are complex and costly and only pursued for serious matters of fact or law.
The new system is definitely working.
The CTA says the new streamlined system is cutting down its huge backlog of complaints. But if airlines launch lots of legal challenges, it will take action.
If we need to adjust, then certainly that's advice we would bring to the government.
That's little comfort for the Ditchkowskis.
It doesn't seem fair.
They did get one piece of good news. If Air Canada wins the court case, it says the couple won't be on the hook for legal fees. Sophia Harris, CBC News, Toronto.
Surprising results from India's election. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will get a rare third term, but his party failed to win an outright majority. Our South Asia correspondent, Salima Shivji, looks at what it means for Modi's new mandate.
The drums ring out and the celebratory dances pour onto the street at the headquarters for India's ruling BJP. But this isn't exactly a win for Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He did his best. Modi was supposed to cruise to victory this election, which was dominated by polarizing religious rhetoric Instead, India's voters sent a clear message.
Round 4.
As early results rolled in, the shock set in, with the count showing a surprising setback for Modi, the popular strongman, and his seemingly unbeatable BJP. Their majority now severely diminished. Modi will have to work with his coalition allies to govern. He may have claimed a decisive victory, saying this is a win for the world's largest democracy. But it was the opposition Congress Party and its headquarters that was more jubilant.
This was our last hope, to save the democracy, to save the Constitution.
They far outperformed expectations. After cobbling together an alliance of opposition parties to try to stop Modi from winning a rare third term.
The country has unanimously and clearly stated, we do not want Mr. Narendra Modi.
The Congress, relegated to the political wilderness for Modi's decade-long rule, now given new life.
It's an election where the people in power have to be told that, well, you're okay, you're doing well, but this is where you need a bit of course correction.
Even some who voted for Modi are pleased with the result, tempering the power of the man who's ruled India with a strong hand for 10 years.
This opposition party has performed very well. Opposition should be there to fight.
It's not yet clear how Modi will operate under the diminished mandate that voters here have given him. But with such a slim majority for his alliance, he's now a much humbled prime minister. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Delhi.
For more about the rise of Narendra Modi, you can listen to Salima on a new CBC podcast, Modi's India Understood. Canadians have seen their grocery bills skyrocket over the past few years, but even with those high costs, we're spending less on groceries.
That's when a red flag came up, like something does not make sense here.
Later, Andrew Chang breaks down the tough choices Canadians have been forced to make.
And up next, we'll bring you back to France, where Canadian veterans are returning to Juno Beach, many for what is likely the last time.
I've been there a couple of times with vets. Most of them are not gone.
The preparations underway for Thursday's D-Day anniversary. Plus, it was the first home here in France to be liberated when Canadian forces stormed these shores 8 decades ago.
We arrived on D-Day, 7:26 a.m.
The stories hidden behind the walls of Canada House. We're back in 2. With the 80th anniversary of D-Day 2 days away, memorials are taking prominent positions, and veterans from the Allied forces arriving from other parts of Europe, the United States, and of course, Canada. Welcome back to our coverage from Juno Beach. Among the Canadian veterans returning to Normandy, retired Captain Bill Wilson.
I've been there a couple of times with vets. Most of them are not gone. So, and I have a couple of friends buried there, so I'll be looking at them for the last time.
Wilson was a seaman gunner who was part of the Allied landings on June the 6th. He is one of about a dozen Second World War veterans here in France and sharing their memories. And as Margaret Evans shows us, they are also warning of the consequences if we don't learn from their sacrifices.
The simple pleasures of life by the sea on display in Normandy, soon to make room for a gathering 80 years after blood soaked the same shores. Even the flags along the seawalls seem to be waiting for the return of those soldiers who fought for the liberation of France and Western Europe. Those still living, that is. And so are the people who guard their memory. We wanted to honor and celebrate all our liberators, mainly the Canadians, says Anne-Marie Philippot, mayor of Courcelles-sur-Mer, a town on Juno Beach where Canadian troops came ashore on D-Day. Part of the tradition here and along other towns and villages liberated by Allied forces is to reenact what life was like back then. Memory is important, says the mayor, and so is history. 13 Second World War veterans from Canada have traveled to France for this week's ceremonies.
I'm Margaret. Nice to meet you. Yes.
John Preece was dropped into battle in the months after D-Day by a military glider.
They disconnect the wire, suddenly it's flying away, and you're a glider.
He says the glamour that sometimes came with the uniform was quick to fade in battle.
If you wore uniforms, everybody, especially the girls, they liked you, and so it's a good life for young people. It seemed like it until you get in the front line. If you make one blunder, and it doesn't have to be much, you're a dead man.
For many veterans and for those who honor them, this week is about remembering the fallen and reminding the world not to take their sacrifices for granted. We've been lucky to have been at peace for 80 years, says the mayor, but not far away there is war. We have to remind our leaders of this and say, be careful. History, after all, can repeat. Margaret Evans, CBC News, Normandy.
And we're learning some sad news tonight. William Bill Cameron, a Canadian veteran who was supposed to be part of the delegation to Normandy, has died at the age of 100, one day before the planned trip. Cameron was an anti-aircraft machine gunner on board HMCS Kitchener on D-Day, supporting the American troops who landed on Omaha Beach. Recalling that day, he once said, "We were all very afraid we would be sunk or killed, but at the same time, we knew we had a job to do." We will have extensive coverage of the D-Day anniversary. I'll be here in France tomorrow night. And on Thursday, you can also tune in to special CBC News coverage of the 80th anniversary of D-Day, and starting at 4 a.m. Eastern, 1 a.m. Pacific. We'll have more ahead from here in Normandy, and as we approach the 80th anniversary of D-Day, we'll take you inside the home first liberated by Canadian troops.
Bonjour. Vous êtes Canadien? Oui.
The woman welcoming Canadians into her family's home and keeping its stories and their stories alive. Plus, the Indigenous soldiers who volunteered and fought bravely in that ferocious campaign.
I'm very honored that they went because we're a nation of warriors.
Why they're only now getting the recognition they deserve. The National breaks down the story shaping our world. Next. Here in Europe, several thousand people have been forced from their homes in southern Germany after heavy rainfall led to some widespread flooding. At least 5 people died, including a firefighter who was rescuing trapped residents. Hundreds of tractors took over the streets of Brussels today, driven by farmers protesting the EU's environmental policies. This just days before the European parliamentary elections. Susan Ormiston is in Brussels for us tonight with more on their calls for change.
They call themselves warriors. European farmers fighting EU rules and bureaucracy which they say unfairly targets polluting farming practices. The rally point, a park in Brussels, where they stand their ground ready for battle.
We, the European Union's farmers, demand the withdrawal of the Green Deal.
The Green Deal, brought in by the EU after the last elections, is meant to combat climate change, but it's dividing farms from cities and right from left.
I don't know if European politicians, if they notice that we're in trouble, we have problems.
Farmers gathered Monday night near the Netherlands border to roll in a convoy to Brussels 6 hours by tractor.
So the only moment when you can affect politics is right before elections. Then they're vulnerable.
The Netherlands government, for example, wanted to cap livestock numbers, saying too much manure spread as fertilizer gives off harmful nitrogen emissions.
Do you really think that I try to poison my own fields? Of course not. This leftist, idealistic way of thinking pushed by NGOs, and we need to get rid of this.
Jos Ubels is vice president of the Farmers' Defence Force, started in 2019.
Do you want to reduce the power of the Greens in the European Parliament?
This is the only savior for Europe. Otherwise we will get hunger. Trust me.
Europe's Green parties say this is about more than manure.
They accused the far-right parties of hijacking protests like this to sow disunity and help slow down climate policy within the EU.
A message of resistance.
Indeed, politicians on the right lined up to speak.
We have had enough of this climate madness.
With echoes of a familiar cry.
Make the EU great again.
Amazing warrior.
Thank you very much.
Susan Ormiston, CBC News, Brussels.
Now, let's return to our D-Day anniversary coverage and go deeper into the Canadian stories along this historic stretch of beach. This is the breakdown. Any Canadian who comes to Normandy should really go to a place called Canada House. That's not its official title. It's just a private home that sits on the beach in Bernières-sur-Mer.
Vous êtes Canadien? Oui.
But Canadians liberated it on D-Day, and Canadians died saving that home. The family that has owned it all these years is now completely dedicated to honoring the sacrifice. This is all sacred ground for Canadians, but that place, that house, that is a story. The Canadians didn't have a name for it then, but they knew to look for it. One house that stood taller than the others on Juno Beach. It's there in the footage of the D-Day landings. The Germans had used it to shoot at the Canadians, but the Queen's own rifles pushed through, took and held the battered building. The first in France to be liberated on D-Day. A beacon then, and 80 years later, the Canadians still come.
Bonjour. Vous êtes Canadien? Oui.
It is now Nicole Hoffer's house, has been in her husband's family since before the war, and it tells her stories all the time.
As soon as the Canadians landed, the Germans went to hide in the basement and came out into the garden behind the house. And when the Canadians entered the house, they threw grenades by the door that goes to the basement, and they took the Germans prisoner in the backyard. And here it is. The Germans were taken prisoner here.
Some shrapnel marks, a bit of graffiti, she's left it all.
There's some writing here.
But truthfully, she knew nothing of what really happened here until a few decades ago, when aging Canadian men first started quietly staring at the house.
I kept seeing all these people taking pictures of the house. It was me who went up to them and asked why. Why were they taking pictures of the house? It was some veterans, and they started telling me what had happened here, because I didn't know anything about this place. They told me we landed here on June 6, 1944, and we liberated this house. Those were the first words they said. They told the story like it was a film replaying in their minds. And a lot of their families said, "We've never heard about that."
She and her late husband, Hervé, made the decision to open the doors to any Canadian who came by. Their house was clearly Canada House. And just look at it. All the treasures in here brought to her by veterans and their families. Each one a modest piece of D-Day history.
This crucifix was given to us by the daughter of a veteran. This soldier was from the Chaudière regiment who passed through the house. And after Bernières, he went to another village, and he found this crucifix in the rubble of a house.
Then he put the crucifix in his pocket, and that happened to be precisely the place he would later be hit by shrapnel.
The Christ had lost an arm, but it saved his life. He brought it back to Canada and hung it in his house. And before he died, he made his daughter promise to bring the crucifix here, to Canada House.
There's nothing official behind this effort to remember and respect now. Just a woman who will not stop. The guest book filled with the shaky pen of old soldiers. Their regiments, their memories. Every few pages, a curious story.
We arrived on D-Day, 7:26 a.m.
There's Ernie Kells' entry. When he visited in 2009, he wrote, "Sorry for throwing a grenade in your cellar." Nicole remembers the day he showed up on the boardwalk, just looking at the house.
One day, there was a veteran at the fence, and it was Hervé, my husband, who greeted him and said, "Do you want to come in?" But he didn't want to. Hervé insisted, and at one point he said, "Okay, I would like to come in, but I'm not paying for the damage I caused 50 years ago," because he was one of the Canadian soldiers who threw the grenades into the house.
Nicole has now been meeting veterans for decades. This is the early 2000s. And she says she stays in touch, will do so for as long as they want. And all seem to be learning all the time. The people who live in Bernières-sur-Mer tell the story that when Canadian veterans have returned to this spot on Juno Beach, the place where they landed on June 6, 1944, often they will ask the question, what happened to the wall? Where's the huge wall that protected them from the German fire that was coming from that house that the Canadians ultimately liberated? Well, it turns out the wall hasn't been destroyed. It's not gone. It's just that the beach has reclaimed it. And if you dig even a little, it's all still there. So the sands have shifted, but the beach still holds the evidence of D-Day all these years later. The sand and the sea still hold the stories of what happened right here 80 years ago. And even now, when the tide is high, the sea brings them back. Bits of uniforms, old weapons, the small basics of life in a place that saw so much death. Back inside, Nicole Hoffer's kitchen jars are often full of the found, including what the locals used to call red spaghetti. Really, this is explosive cordite that once packed the shells on D-Day. And it still burns. And the house, it seems, still holds secrets. It was only a few years ago, she says, she ventured into the attic where she found the Nazi armband and ammunition boxes the German units had left behind. A family home that is Canada's too, and a woman who had no idea the place this would hold in her life.
I've been criticized by members of my family. How could you open your doors to strangers? But I say these strangers have brought you your freedom. To give 15 minutes or half an hour of my life after everything they suffered, we can do that. It's very little in a life compared to what they've done.
Nicole Hoffer will be standing by on the 80th anniversary, waiting for the Canadians. And on Thursday night, after the D-Day ceremonies, that house will become the focus again of a sunset service as locals from Bernières-sur-Mer walk into the shallows just in front of Canada House. They'll be carrying flowers to leave in the water, a thank you and a remembrance for the Canadians who died at that very spot. On D-Day, Canada's ranks included Indigenous soldiers who volunteered to fight. They too will be honored on Thursday. But as Jason Warwick shows us, many believe those soldiers never got the recognition they really deserved.
The pleasure, the privilege to stand here.
These members of southern Saskatchewan's Pepecasis Cree Nation are also descendants of Second World War veterans.
I have mixed emotions right now. They didn't have to go, but they went, right?
In Canada, First Nations people were exempt from serving in the Second World War, but they volunteered anyway at higher rates than non-Indigenous people, and several soldiers from Pepecasis stormed the beaches of France 80 years ago on D-Day.
And thank you very much, Chief, for everything you've done.
That sacrifice honored recently in Regina with a small statue. This week, a larger version of the statue will be dedicated in Normandy, and some of these children and grandchildren of veterans will be on hand for that special moment.
Our spirits will be there with the spirits of those gone on in a powerful way, with Creator looking upon us and blessing us.
Bird's father, Charles, was one of 6 members who landed on D-Day with the Regina Rifles. He was later wounded in the foot, leg, and shoulder, treated, and sent back to the front line. Other Pepecasis members were wounded after they were dropped in as paratroopers, their advance work critical to the Allied invasion plan. Bird and others say their warriors continue to inspire, even though Canada turned its back on them when they returned, denying them farmland and other compensation given to non-Indigenous veterans.
They thought they were fighting for a better life, but they just came back to the same life, right? So So a little mixed emotions at the moment. But I'm very honored that they went, because we're a nation of warriors. So.
While they're in France, the delegation from Pepicus plans to conduct a quiet ceremony on Juno Beach. They say they'll remember their warriors and continue their fight for justice. Jason Warwick, CBC News, Regina.
Tomorrow, veterans will be gathering not far away at Benny-sur-Mer, the Canadian War Cemetery, where over 2,000 soldiers were laid to rest. We will share those stories with you and much more. But for tonight, let's head back to Ian in Vancouver. Ian?
Thanks, Adrian. Coming up, grocery prices have been soaring, but Canadians are spending less on groceries. Andrew Chang breaks down what seems like a paradox next. Grocery prices are way up, but the hard numbers show Canadians are spending less to eat.
Sometimes having to skip meals.
Experts fear the fallout of scrimping on nutrition.
We're going to pay with healthcare.
So let's break down the cash crunch that got us here. Here's Andrew Chang, host of CBC's About That, with the hard numbers around a disturbing trend.
Food prices in Canada rose almost 6% last year. The year before that, it was over 10%. That's well above the general rate of inflation.
I asked for 5 slices of turkey breast, $7.72. What is happening?
And yet, Canadians are actually spending less at grocery stores every month. In fact, we're spending less on average than we have at any point over the last 5 years. Now, if you're thinking, wait, what? You're not alone.
That's when a red flag came up, like something does not make sense here.
So how could it be that people are spending less at the grocery store now than they were when the price of virtually every type of food was cheaper? Let's try to understand. So we can begin to understand what might be happening here with an example. Meet Joe. Joe is a bank teller. He rents a 1-bedroom apartment just outside of Toronto. He drives to work and back, about 30 minutes each way. Let's call it 1,200 kilometers a month. And he's paying off his car and his student loans. So these were the major line items in Joe's budget in early 2020. And I'll just say, Joe is very average. So he's paying the average rent, he's paying the average price for gas with average commute times, he's using an average amount of energy at the average rate, he bought an average used car, has the average amount of student loan debt. You get the idea, the average grocery bill as well. All of this, by the way, based on Statistics Canada and other provincial data. Now, let's look at Joe again in early 2024. So Joe's rent, his gas, his energy bill, and loan payments have all gone up pretty significantly. Combined, he's paying, if I add this up here, plus, I think it works out to $600, can barely fit that on, $602 more a month, or $7,224 a year, just on these 5 categories, not including groceries, and none of which are really optional expenses for him. He's kept his car, still does his laundry at the same time of day, still has to, drive to work every day. Unfortunately, he doesn't have rent control. He's paying the market average. But let's look at this. I'm gonna push this out of the way, pull this one in, because we're gonna look at Joe's income. So just over 39 grand a year in 2020. Again, very average, but let's assume he's been lucky enough to stay in the same job. He's, even had a couple of small pay bumps since 2020. The average raise is about 3.5% a year in Ontario, times 4, that works out to this, $44,983, or an extra $5,783 a year, but still not enough to cover all those extra costs. So Joe starts cutting back. He plays video games more, goes out to bars less. He goes camping for vacations. But he's trying to save up to buy a house, to have kids, and those goalposts keep getting further away. So he starts digging into his food budget too. He buys more packaged food, frozen food, less meat, fewer vegetables. So in the end, he reins in his grocery spending by almost $100 a month. So this is the average spending per person per month at grocery stores in Canada in early 2020. And in early 2024.
You can't tell the bank to charge you less on your mortgage. You can't go to the gas station and say, hey, I want to pay less for gas. But what you can do is watch your cost of goods coming in the house.
Okay, so this isn't just the author of this report assuming that people are cutting corners on food. There's data that shows food is a problem for a lot of people in Canada right now. For one, the number of people that Statistics Canada considers to be experiencing food insecurity has skyrocketed over the past couple of years. In 2022, almost 1 in 4 Canadians said they either had a much smaller selection of food they could afford, reduced their food quality or quantity, or, in the most severe cases, skipped meals because they couldn't afford not to.
With moderate to severe food insecurity, that's where we've really seen the rise. And that means that not always being able to offer a healthy meal, sometimes having to skip meals. And so food insecurity, yes, big public health challenge here in Canada.
But even people who aren't quite that desperate are making compromises. A large chunk of Canadians surveyed in October said they prioritized cost over nutrition when it came to food more than they did a year ago. And it's even worse for younger and older people. Gen Zs, millennials, and people over 75. More than half of people in those age groups say they've had to sacrifice nutrition for cost.
As soon as people will see, a tomato that has doubled in price, they'll just walk away from that category for a very long time. So with fresh, you spook consumers and you push them in the center of the store where there's more ultra-processed food, there's more calorie-dense food.
According to Canada's Food Price Report, where these numbers are from, what the average person is spending on food has now dropped well below what the authors say we should be spending to maintain a healthy diet.
How I read that graph means that in 10 years from now, we're going to pay with healthcare because you're basically forcing Canadians to make severe nutritional compromises along the way. If you don't really match that black line, it is going to be problematic.
A couple of months ago, researchers in the UK released a massive meta-analysis, meaning they looked at hundreds of studies on ultra-processed foods to see what the data showed. And they found if you eat a lot of it, you're at a higher risk of 32 different health issues: physical, metabolic, and psychological.
And the economic burden of the chronic disease, mainly impacted by diet, is about $28 billion annually. So this is a big impact on our healthcare system, but an even bigger impact on those individuals personally.
We get calls every day from people crying on the phone, stress.
When you think about it, having to rely on not as nutritious foods is one thing, but then the stress of not knowing if you're going to be able to, afford the food that, is right for you and your family, that impacts your overall health, your well-being, mental and physical health.
What's less clear is how to fix all of this, because this isn't just a food price problem. Some grocery prices in Canada are now actually starting to fall, but the cost of living isn't. And until that's under control, chances are Canadians will continue to cut back wherever they can.
The latest StatsCan numbers show where severe household food insecurity is most prevalent: Alberta, Saskatchewan, Newfoundland and Labrador, and PEI. The problem is more widespread in the north, but it's measured per capita, not by household. Next, an update on some horses that ran wild through the streets of central London. It's a far cry from the commotion they caused just weeks ago. How they're holding up in our moment. Those are two horses from the British military sharing some quiet time after an unforgettable adventure. We showed you back in April how they caused a huge commotion, bolting through the streets of London without their riders. They scared pedestrians and injured themselves. Tonight, though, their recovery is our moment. This is Vida and Quaker enjoying themselves in the English countryside. It's a far cry from the commotion they caused just weeks ago after they escaped from their riders and galloped through the streets of central London during the morning rush hour. The Ministry of Defence says the runaways appear in good spirits and have made remarkable progress. The other 3 escapees have already returned to duty. and against all expectations, will likely take part in the King's Birthday Parade later this month. In case you're wondering what caused all of that, they were apparently spooked by some falling debris at a construction site. And by the way, 5 soldiers were, I guess, working with those horses. 3 have returned to work. 2 are still injured but expected to return to work as well. For all of us here at The National, thanks for being with us. You can watch anywhere, anytime on the free CBC News app and subscribe to The National's YouTube channel. I'm Ian Hannamansing in Vancouver. See you tomorrow night.